Hello there guys, Bilbo10000 here, bringing you another countdown video. Every Sunday I'm going to be creating top 5 videos that are about subjects I want to talk about related to gaming. Today, I figured I'd start things off with a bang by showing my top 5 games of all time. These are the 5 games that I consider to be my favourites of all time. Games that I would buy in a heartbeat, and games that I know I'll be playing again in the future because I love them that much. I do have a quick rule to keep this list somewhat balanced, only one game per franchise, otherwise this list would just be Zelda and Pokemon. Before we get started though, I just want to ask, what are your favourite games of all time? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and remember that if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe. I create multiple videos a week and my goal is to help this community grow. So if you like what you see, please stay. And if you're interested in my honourable mentions, check the description. This was originally a top 10, so numbers 10 through 6 are listed in the description. Without further ado, let's begin. Gaming has been a large part of my life ever since childhood. I was 3 years old when I picked up my first PlayStation 1 controller, and I've been a gamer ever since. The medium keeps me coming back for more, and I'm proud that I'm able to enjoy and contribute to the gaming community in a way that fights back against gaming stereotypes. And I have to say, if there's a game that really started my love for the medium, it's my number 5. Making it onto this list is Spyro Year of the Dragon for the PlayStation 1. What can I say about the third game in the PS1 Spyro trilogy, other than that it's an absolute masterpiece? This was my first introduction to the world of Spyro and the collectathon gameplay that is so well known nowadays. Hunting across the various worlds for gems, dragon eggs, and other collectibles is a highlight of my gaming life, and in Spyro 3, the worlds really felt complete and alive in comparison to the first 2 games. Sunny Villa, Seashell Shore, Spooky Swamp, Bamboo Terrace, Charmed Ridge, Fireworks Factory, Crystal Islands, Dino Mines, and more. This game had so many iconic vistas to visit, and the accompanying music was also top-notch. Stuart Copeland was a master of his craft, and his compositions for the game's soundtrack cannot be ignored. They are absolutely brilliant, and getting him back for the Spyro Reignited trilogy was a great decision by the developers. Spyro for me was this franchise that captured my 5-year-old heart, and it felt like I was going on an epic adventure across the worlds presented. So much so that years later my brother rebought the game for me after some persuasion. And screaming and crying, but semantics, am I right? So I could finally complete the game to its full completion rating. I can't say I've ever rebought a game for that reason since. As a kid, I didn't have many consoles past the PS2 era. I didn't get my own Nintendo Wii until years after it came out, I never owned a PlayStation 3 or a PlayStation 4, and Xbox wasn't exactly well known at my home. As such, I was very much a handheld kinda guy. And of course, who was the king of handheld games? Nintendo. I had a blue see-through Game Boy Advance and a bright pink Game Boy Advance SP, which I used to use. Sadly, I lost the blue handheld in Wales during a visit to see my sister, and the battery in my pink handheld stopped working years ago. But I had some brilliant times as a kid with some great handheld games. Pokemon Crystal, The Hobbit, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, all great games I enjoyed. But none of these really compared to the enjoyment I felt when I played Golden Sun. And you thought you could escape me talking about this franchise for one video? Think again! I may want Isaac and Smash, but Golden Sun as a game is very near and dear to my heart thanks to its ability to world build and expand upon what I'd experienced with JRPGs at the time. It managed to open my eyes to a unique combat system and exploration-based gameplay, as well as the glorious soundtrack that was able to use the fairly awful GBA sound chip to create amazing themes. And the kicker about all of this, my copy of the game was in Spanish. Yeah, I had to complete Golden Sun in a foreign language because there was no option to change the language settings on the game back then. This actually helped out a lot because I had just moved to Spain and was already learning the Spanish language, so Golden Sun helped me to understand various phrases and made my life a little bit easier. It holds a sentimental place in my heart and is a brilliant game, but this video can't do the game justice. If you're interested in my full thoughts on Golden Sun, click the card in the top right corner and consider checking out the streamed Let's Play I'm currently doing on the game. My top 3 games of all time haven't changed in terms of the 3 games that are currently holding these slots. Honestly, there have been brilliant games in the past few years that I think I'll move up the list as I get older and look back. But these 3 games at the top of this list represent 3 of my best gaming experiences of all time. I've swapped them around a lot as a kid, but my number 3 consistently places in 3rd out of the 3 games. So, today, let me tell you about my favourite Legend of Zelda game. You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you? At number 3, we've got The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Unlike most people who played Majora for the first time, I was actually quite late to the party, as in I played it around 2011 for the first time. I mentioned earlier, but I never owned a Nintendo 64. I had a friend who had one and I played Majora's Mask once as a kid, since you can't really forget that opening sequence, but it wasn't until I started to look for games myself that I really played the game. I'd been playing through the Zelda franchise as I wanted to experience all the games I'd missed out on across the years, and when I reached Majora's Mask, I'd just come off a very generic Ocarina of Time playthrough, and I was looking to shake things up. Majora's Mask shook things up. I really enjoy games that are able to tell great stories, but also put a focus on the characters in those games. Story is important to me, and you'll see that with all 3 of my top picks, but the way Majora's Mask was able to handle the somber tone and the tragic stories of all these different characters who were coping with the apocalypse in their own way, it was very mature in its theme, and didn't treat the player like a kid or handhold them. People died, the game overs were grim, the dungeons were pretty tough, and the 3-day clock system gave players a sense of urgency and dread that I had never really felt before in a game. Some hated this mechanic as they felt they couldn't handle the pressure of a time limit on their gameplay, but once you learned the inverted Song of Time, I found that time limit wasn't really an issue, and the gimmick behind the transformation masks was so unique as it finally allowed players to play as iconic Zelda species like the Zora, the Gorons, and my personal favourite, the Deku Scrubs. If only Majora's Mask was made post-2018, we'd probably get a Rito mask as well. Collecting the various masks was also a brilliant choice in terms of progression, as you had a screen dedicated to showcasing how you helped the people of Termina, and by the end of the game, collecting every mask possible even got you a pretty awesome reward in the Fierce Deity mask. I could gush for longer about this game, but I need to wrap this segment up, so I'll just say this. Go play Majora's Mask, if you haven't already. Majora's Mask 3D is the definitive version, and I screamed like a little bitch when it got announced, so you know it's good.
My phone, a widget of that's the Majora's Mask clock. Oh my god. Don't tell me, please. Yes! Yes! Oh my god, yes! Oh my god, Nintendo! Thank you! It's Majora's Mask!
Debating between the number 2 and the number 1 spots on this list, I've often swapped these 2 around depending on how I feel at the time. But in recent years, I've made a concrete choice on which of these 2 games I enjoy more, and you'll discover the identity of number 1 very soon, but for now, let me introduce you to a game that not only shaped my gaming experiences, but shaped my nephew's gaming experiences when I showed it to him as well. At number 2, we've got Shadow of the Colossus. Can a video game be considered art? Those were questions being thrown around in 2006 when Shadow of the Colossus first released, because quite frankly, the entire experience was an artful journey that took you through a complex experience with barely any dialogue to pad the game. The concept was to kill 16 giant colossi in a game that consisted purely of boss battles. You find the boss, kill the boss, then start again, lather, rinse, repeat. What made Shadow of the Colossus so unique is how breathtaking the world and the colossi were, and just how unique each battle seemed to feel. You had colossi of different sizes who lived in different terrains with different weaknesses and strengths, and all the player had was a sword, a bow, and a horse, and you had to take on the insurmountable forces of nature, all to save a young girl. The gameplay is so much fun, the colossi fights are enjoyable, But what really elevated this game for me was its ability to tell a story without using words. Its atmosphere and what is left unsaid. As you travel to each boss through a desolate land where the only living creatures are lizards and birds, you often have time to think about what you're doing, wonder whether you're doing the right thing by killing these creatures who have done nothing to you in return. You are the monster here, but you need to bring this girl back to life and you'll do anything for her. The lack of music outside of boss battles, aside from the occasional brief camera pan across the path you're meant to take, is a purposeful choice that keeps you thinking about your actions and makes the music feel all the more powerful when it kicks in. And this game's soundtrack is god tier, probably my favourite soundtrack of all time. You've got action songs, peaceful songs, eerie ambience, everything in between, and more. It's a game that you have to experience yourself to truly understand, and with the PlayStation 4 remake that was released this year, updating the visuals to true perfection, now is the best time to lose yourself in the world of Shadow of the Colossus. I won't spoil the game for you, just experience it for yourself. I don't think this game will ever be topped. I won't lie. So let me introduce my favourite game of all time. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon The Explorer games are my favourites of all time. They all tell the same story, but I'll be focusing on Explorers of Sky as it adds extra content that makes Darkness and Time feel like cheap knockoffs. There are many people out there who didn't enjoy the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games. They never really got great reviews from media outlets, and it always felt like a game that the fans loved but the critics panned. And I'm okay with that. I can form my own opinions of these games, and if you've never played them, I'd recommend them. The game's premise is simple. You are a Pokemon starter who was once a human. You and a partner of your choice go on an adventure, joining a guild of explorers, and try to recover your lost memories and figure out what you're in this world for. The gameplay is pretty simple. You explore randomly generated floors, collect items, battle other Pokemon, and try to find your way to the stairs that lead to the next floor with the goal of getting through the dungeon. When you get through a dungeon, you'll either complete it or face a boss Pokemon, then the cycle repeats. What makes these games so great, however, is the story and characters. Pokemon games traditionally are not known for their gripping stories. Mystery Dungeon is the exception to that. From beginning to end, you meet characters with their own narratives and goals, from the simple folk in Treasure Town to the guild members in the main cast. There's a real sense of progression, and I think more than any other game in this series, this game focuses on both the player and the partner characters equally, and strikes the best balance of character development. This game is why I was a Mudkip avatar for about 4 years of my YouTube career, and why Mudkip and Trico remain two of my favourite Pokemon to this day. I think people naturally grow attached to their player and partner characters, and my pair of Ewan the Mudkip and Ozzy the Trico are my iconic duo. Oh, and this game made me cry like a bitch. I won't spoil what happens, but the endings for all the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games tend to follow a similar trend that will make you very emotional and break you beyond belief. It doesn't help that they save the hard-hitting emotional tracks for the ending. The game's soundtrack is god tier, up there with Shadow of the Colossus, and I've even made a top 10 video on this game before. So if you're interested in hearing some great music tracks, click the card in the top right corner. Dialga's Fight to the Finish, Treasure Town's theme, Never Forget, all brilliant themes that have stuck with me across the years. If there's one game that I recommend people play, it's Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky. And that's all there is to it. Thank you very much everyone for watching, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more. Tomorrow I'll be releasing the next episode of Rate Their Chances, and next Sunday I'll be doing another personal countdown. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.